Hi, I'm Jeff. Thanks for checking out the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Morimoto's 4-banger LED off-road ditch light for the A-pillars on the 2021 and later Ford Bronco. There's two versions of this light, the 4-banger, which has 3 LEDs in it. It either comes in an NCS or the HXB variant. The NCS puts out 105,000 candela, costs $400 for a pair, or you can go with the HXB, which costs $200 more, or $100 per light, but it puts out 170,000 candela. So 170,000 versus 105,000. If you run the math on that, it's a 62% increase in the light output of the upgraded chips. So to me, 50% increase in price, 62% increase in the light output, I find it a worthwhile value. But you can go with either one, and both lights review really well. I think they're fantastic quality products here to put on your vehicle. Again, this is a Morimoto 4-banger off-road ditch light. It comes in the NCS or the HXB variant. It's made to go on your pillars back here, one on either side, and I'll show the unboxing video here in just a moment after this introduction. I want to thank you again for checking out the channel, and as always, if you can please give a subscription or a like, I greatly appreciate it. You have a great day. U-shaped mountain brackets. And mounts for the A-pillar on the Bronco. Like that. Nice packaging. It's a really nice feel to them. Very solid feeling lens. Wire and harness. Hardware. So first up, after getting the hood open, is we're going to go ahead and put in Morimoto's relay. So this is going to go ahead and tie inside your engine compartment. I'm going to find a place to bolt it. They talk about self-tapping it. On the Bronco, it's got a composite instead of metal, so I don't really want to tap into the composite, so I'm going to find some other place to go ahead and hook this and just make sure that the cable and the wire is hanging down so water intrusion won't be an issue for it. And then as you go down this, it's going to have a point to tie into your battery, plus, and a point to tie into a negative, which we'll find in the engine compartment pretty easily. And then it has a light 1 and a light 2 plug. Light 1 and light 2. Light 1 is for the driver's side, and light 2 is over for the passenger side. And then finally on the harness, it has a disconnect for Morimoto's switch in case you don't actually have the uplifter switches in your Bronco. So they made it so you can disconnect this and instead connect the connection for the uplifter switch. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect Morimoto's button out of here and then go ahead and put on the connector for the one of my Upfitter switches. So that's disconnecting the switch provided by Morimoto. And then you can see a cable that you can strip the wire here and just tie this into the connection instead. It has a 3-prong pin. And then just tighten that down. Make sure it's nice and tight, make sure it's waterproof in there. It's a really nice solid connector they give. So one of the first simple mods I did here for Morimoto's relay, they have a metal tab on here for mounting this into your vehicle. I personally, and they tell you to use a self-tapping screw and screw it somewhere in. I'd really rather not drill or put another hole into my vehicle, so I want to use an existing point. So what I decided to use is a grounding point. It's right here at my finger, at least on the Bronco Raptor. There's multiple grounding points in here. The screw that goes in there is just a little bigger than the original hole that was on this relay. So when I went and clamped this down so it wouldn't spin in my hand, and I took a 15/64 drill bit and just enlarged the hole just slightly. So I could now go ahead and get the screw from the grounding point to fit inside here. So now I can use a grounding point screw and go ahead and use my existing ground point and just tie this in here. Again, that's just a preference for me. I'd rather not drill or tap screws into the metal of my vehicle and have any rust issues down the road, so I opted to do that. Again, that was a 15/64 drill bit that allowed this screw here for the grounding point to fit in, and I'll show you a close-up in the vehicle here of that. And this, by the way, is a 8mm socket that I use to back that up. So again, an 8mm socket to back out the grounding point and put it back in. So now that my hands are free, here's how I finalized my wiring plan. So first, when you actually go to connect up your wiring, go ahead and disconnect your negative terminal here. So I've just got a rubber glove here holding the terminal off the battery post. So once you do that, everything now is cold here on the vehicle. Moving up, this is the spot where I was going to go ahead and connect or anchor the Morimoto relay. I decided to move it over one grounding point to the right. It's just a little more tucked clean out of the way, so I preferred that. So I put both the relay face down, so the body of it sits below the level of this plate here. So the back side of the relay is where the metal tab is, and that's the top side I used. And I bolted that in, as well as the negative grounding point for this relay, since this is actually a grounding point anyway. So I tied them both in. So here is the grounding point. And then the positive power, I went ahead and I decided to go ahead and tie it into the positive connector here on the circuit breaker, on the fuse box. It's a little hard to make this cable reach all the way over to the battery terminal. You could, if you wanted to, mount it somewhere else and tie it into one of the available positive posts here, but I wanted a little closer reach. As you can see, the positive power actually comes right up here and ties into the fuse box. So I just went ahead and tied the wire into the positive connection here. It gave me a lot more room to go ahead and hide this. So again, got the relay and the negative post here coming out of the relay, and then the positive power comes down over to the fuse box. And now I'll just go ahead and put the cover back on the fuse box, and it will be nice and clean and out of the way. So now we'll review what I've done with the towel and rubber glove out of the way. I've now gone ahead and reconnected the negative power terminal. I never used the positive terminal here, so I didn't tie anything from this light kit into that. So that was unused. And then up in the corner here, I've got a couple cables for the actual lights we haven't hooked up yet. But in the corner here, you can see here is the relay. My hand is touching the relay box for the light kit. It's tied into the most right corner negative ground. In addition, I've actually taken the Morimoto negative ground and tied it into that as well. So for the light kit, the actual relay here, the negative ground, and then finally coming out of the relay is a positive wire. And the positive wire is running right here. You can see it tucks in nicely and goes up underneath the positive terminal on the fuse box. So that's tied in. I'll be able to clean it up. Finally, there's a few more cables left in here now. Coming out of the relay is one of the wires labeled light 1. That's going to come up the driver's side. The other one is light 2. That's going to go over to the passenger's side. I will run that up. And then the third final wire here is plenty of wire for going into the cab if you needed to. Is the actual connector that's going to go into the uplifter switch. So it isn't stripped yet, but that will tie into one of my uplifters of choice. I'm probably going to go with switch number 3 and put this on that. But this is a pretty long cable that I'll have to clean up. They gave a lot of room to run it. And then finally, with this cable, you'll see, for example, on the light 2, it doesn't quite reach all the way to the other side, but Morimoto gives you 2 extension cables, both for the passenger and driver side, to connect this and extend it out and run it. So I won't have any problem with the connectors or the length of the cable, so this will be nice to go ahead and run those out. I probably won't need to use the extension on the driver's side. It's plenty long, but I will need to use one of the extensions to get up into the passenger side in the A-pillar. So now with the basic cables run out either side, again, this one is light 2 coming over here, wired up, and we're going to go ahead and remove the 2 bolts off the A-pillar. So oddly, one bolt is a T30 and one bolt is a T20. So go ahead and take those both out. Those are out. With these bolts out, you can lift up on the plastic piece on the inside edge. Next, we'll take the assembled mount and we'll put the banger light on it. This is the driver's side, and you'll do that for the passenger side as well. When I do this, I like to actually have a nice watertight seal on here. So it takes some pressure to push them together and they'll latch. So now both of the lights are connected. It's really low profile, clean mount. I've got to go do some alignment after the sun goes down, but you can see they really blend in nicely with the vehicle. I like their small but very powerful size. I'll do a test here at the end of the video. But just doing some basic cable hiding in here. So this is the extra cable. I'm going to tuck it up underneath here. And on the other side, same thing, is the spare cable running across. So I'll tie it in to the cable that runs across the back side of the engine compartment. That's going to be pretty easy to neaten this up. And then my last step here I'll do in just a moment is the actual power connection, which is a very long cable that I'll go ahead and stow. If you want to look at your wiring, I'm doing this for the Bronco Raptor. But regular Broncos are a little bit different on the color. All you gotta do is into the search feature and just type in AUX, A-U-X-I. And if you do that, you'll get a pretty shortened menu. And then one of them is identifying the auxiliary switch wiring. You touch that, and that is our wiring that corresponds to the fuse switches on the overhead. So the connection is made. The last thing to work with is just taking care of the long cable they have here. So easy enough. I'll tuck it up and hide it underneath. So however you like to do your own cable management. But here's the connection I made. I like to go with a shrink wrap instead of connectors and stuff. But get the wires fused nicely together and shrink wrap them in there so it's nice and low profile. And we'll show what the lights look like. I'll mess with the cable management in a moment, but give you a chance to see the light. So just lower this, This is with the high beams on, so you can see how bright those are versus the high beams. I've got them pretty closely adjusted now, but again, it just gives you a kind of general sense of how intense these two little lights are versus the high beams on the vehicle. High beam, low beam, high beam, low beam, Morimotos, headlights off, just some Morimotos, Morimotos off, Morimotos on, low beam, high beam, the Morimoto high beams are still on.